The Green Bay Packers have said goodbye to Jordy Nelson, and they've brought in Jimmy Graham. They brought in Mo Wilkerson. Jets think Mo Wilkerson is too much of a headache. He's too much of a disaster. So they've cut bait with a fan favorite, brought in a guy that was a disappointment in Seattle, brought in a guy who was a headache in New York. How risky is all of this, JLC?
The GM is a rookie GM who was promoted from within, and a lot of people didn't think would be willing to rock the boat like this. And I don't even know that Jimmy Graham's better than him. You know, he can still go get a jump ball a little bit, but I don't know, man. When you factor in the human element, I don't know that that's a net gain for the Packers. And I don't know that Jimmy Graham's days of being a straw that stirs the drink on an offense are here anymore, even with Aaron Rodgers. So I wouldn't have done it, frankly. I mean, it's ballsy, and maybe their convictions will be right, but I wouldn't be, picking fights with Aaron Rodgers right now.
So that's an interesting way to put it, picking fights with Aaron Rodgers. Now, apparently, Rodgers has liked a tweet that threw shade at Jimmy Graham. Oh, what?
I'm on Twitter or Facebook right now.
This is like the most passive-aggressive way to emote nowadays, or us trying to read the tea leaves and how somebody feels. But Rich Eisen of NFL Network tweeted, interesting headline about the Rodgers-Packers surrounding Jimmy Graham, or surrounding him with Super Bowl talent, starting with Jimmy Graham. Since Graham has never played in a Super Bowl, while Jordy Nelson had 9 catches and 140 yards and a touchdown in one of them. Rodgers liked that tweet.
Electronically ignorant.
So one tweet that suggests, hey, Graham's not Super Bowl caliber. Jordy is, because in their only Super Bowl win under Aaron Rodgers, Jordy had that huge game, 9 for 140 over the Steelers. Meantime, the Seahawks, people forget, went to 2 Super Bowls without Jimmy Graham. The Saints won theirs without Jimmy Graham. Does Aaron Rodgers liking this tweet mean that he's unhappy with this move? I think he's unhappy with this move. But I think he's unhappy with this move because it's Jordy, not because it's Jimmy. I think losing Jordy Nelson, one of his best friends on the team, a security blanket forever, a great locker room guy, a great community guy, Aaron Rodgers has a tight bond with Jordy Nelson. And now he's gone. I think this is more about a tip of the cap to Jordy instead of ripping Jimmy Graham. Now, maybe he's heard some things behind the scenes about Jimmy maybe being difficult to coach or doesn't fit certain schemes and why the Seahawks weren't able to get more out of him. Maybe that's part of it. But I think mostly this is about losing a bud and wanting to salute that buddy on his way out of town. Give him some respect because maybe he was unceremoniously cut in your mind by the team. Look, I totally understand why the Packers did this. Jordy is 33 years old. He's coming off his worst season ever. He was a guy that was built on explosive plays and big, deep threats downfield. He's not that anymore. He was a big cap hit. I could understand why the Packers said it makes sense to move on. He's supremely popular, but you can't always just hold on to guys because they're popular. I don't know about Jimmy Graham. I like the idea of Aaron Rodgers having an athletic, dynamic tight end who is younger than Jordy. But Graham in the offense of the New Orleans Saints was unstoppable. Graham in the offense of the Seattle Seahawks never quite got going. He was fine, but he wasn't dominant. I love the idea of Rodgers and Graham as an unstoppable force. I just don't know if we can count on that, considering the last couple of years in Seattle were a real bugaboo for both sides, the team and the player. The Mo Wilkerson addition makes sense because it's short money, no risk. You bring him in, no big deal. If it doesn't work out, he'll be proven or motivated to prove himself on that. But Rodgers is your everything. Rodgers is your cornerstone. Rodgers is the guy that you've got to make sure is okay and happy with everything going on. And it's a tough balance because you don't want him to run the team. You don't want him to run the front office. He needs to be a player first. He can have input, but you also don't want to anger him and get rid of guys that he wants to play with.